Hello and welcome. Today we are looking at the Quadrone Maximus. This is a line of sight camera drone with an HD 720p camera. It has automated features such as auto takeoff and auto land, headless mode, one key return, and claims to have a flight battery of over 20 minutes. So let's have a look at this drone. Now the drone comes in this cool rectangular box with a very elaborate display with the quadcopter flying through a cityscape. And as you can see, it's the Quadrone Maximus, over 20-minute flight time with flight assist, auto takeoff, auto land, auto hover, plenty of features down here, headless mode, 3D stunt mode, flies for over 20 minutes on one battery. So we're definitely going to take a look at that in just a bit. And looking at the side of the box, it just says Quadrone there. On the back of the box, more of the same, but just a little more explanation on each of the features. And as you can see the transmitter here, top view of the quadcopter, and very nice. So without further ado, let's take a closer look at this. So let's open the box here. Just open those flaps. And right here we have one compartment. As you can see, pretty neat. We have the drone already on this box right here. So we'll set that right over here. And then here, I believe we have the manuals as well. So that's pretty cool. And then we've got another box in here. This one shows the transmitter. Transmitter is in this box here. And then I believe down here we have the baggie with all the extra accessories, spare propellers, screwdriver, charger. I believe even the camera's right there, as you can see. So very neat setup. So we've got the transmitter here, all the goodies there, the manuals, and the drone right there. So let's organize all this and take a closer look at the full contents of the box. So taking a final look at the contents of the box, we have the drone itself. We have its 7.4 volt 1000 milliamp LiPo battery, its landing skids or legs, 4 spare propellers, a screwdriver, its 720p HD camera, which we attach at the bottom of the quadcopter, its charger for the battery, a USB to SD card adapter, a 4 gig SD card, the transmitter, and its instruction manuals. So that's essentially the contents of the box. Now let's take a closer look at the drone. Now taking a closer look at the drone, this is a very nice looking drone with the standard Syma X5C look to it. So it's kind of like a variant of the Syma X5C type drones. And as you can see here at the top, it says Quadrone with white and red here, and it's predominantly red and black. As you can see, there are no other color variations to this that I'm aware of. This is a brushed motor quadcopter, and the propeller guards can be removed, but they initially come screwed on, so you would have to unscrew them to remove them. And there is a little bit of installation to do with this. You do have to wedge the landing legs or skids on, and you have to connect the camera, this 720p HD camera. I don't believe this camera is wide angle, but it is, I believe, a 2 megapixel HD 720p camera, and it is tiltable about 45 degrees, which is pretty cool. And it does take an SD card, which it does come with, a 4 gig SD card it does come with, but you can put other types of SD cards right in there in the slot there on the side. So that's pretty cool. And you do have to connect the wiring there to power on the camera. And of course, the camera is not tiltable remotely. You have to do it prior to takeoff. But pretty cool camera nonetheless. Here is the on-off switch there at the bottom. So once the battery is fully plugged in, you would have to turn the switch on or off to activate the quadcopter. But very cool look to it, very lightweight, but yet sturdy. And the propeller guards really do help protect the propellers. And now let's take a look at the battery bay and talk a little bit about the battery, because that's one of the key features of this quadcopter, is that it supposedly has over a 20-minute flight time, which is very good for a toy grade camera quadcopter. So right here, let's look at the battery. So the battery that it comes with is a 7.4 volt, 1000 milliamp LiPo battery. And this is a hobby type battery, because all the connections here are somewhat standard. And it's very easy to find batteries like this. In fact, the JJRC H26 has a very similar battery, only it's a 1200 milliamp. And it has about the same dimensions, and you can probably use that on here and even perhaps get more flight time. But this battery does have a kind of like a padding here at the bottom that it comes with, and that's mainly because they do have a very spacious battery bay back here. So that's very good. The possibility of possibly putting bigger, larger batteries in here is highly possible, because it does have a very wide and spacious battery bay. Of course, if you don't want smaller batteries or batteries of certain sizes not to shake around in there, you'd have to either put some sort of cardboard strip or some sort of foam in there. But yes, you could put a large battery, in fact maybe a battery that fully fills out that space. So very cool there. The battery does take a while to charge, about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, with the included charger that is green while it's charging. You do have the option of using a hobby grade charger, something like a B3 20 watt like this, and that'll charge it in much faster time. And you can easily get more of these batteries, like I said, with the JJRC H26 and other types of batteries that have this connector right here. And the flight time is about right. Flying around with the propeller guards on at the highest rates while it's recording video and constantly being in motion, I on average get around a 16-minute flight time, and that's bringing it in during the LVC flashing or light flickering condition that it has. And so I could imagine that if the propeller guards are removed and it's not recording video and it's just hovering still, you probably can achieve close to a 20-minute flight time with this, and especially possibly loading a larger capacity battery in there. So this definitely does have a good flight time. Not quite the over 20 minutes that the box advertises, but a real world flight time would be around 16 minutes or so, 15 to 16 minutes, which is very good for a toy drone like this, especially a Syma X5C variant like this. So this is definitely one of the more robust, more powerful Syma X5C variants that are out there. A couple of last notes on the quadcopter. It's definitely very bright and colorful with its LED lights here. So definitely a good night flyer and very good with orientation, as you can see, with the two front green LED lights and the two rear red LEDs. So that's very good. And the last note about the camera, this is mainly a line of sight camera quadcopter. So unfortunately, there is no app or Wi-Fi FPV streaming or 5.8 gigahertz streaming or anything to that effect. So all the footage, pictures and video that's taken with this is done purely by flying this through line of sight. But that can be good in the sense that there's no interference with the Wi-Fi or anything like that, but you won't find a Wi-Fi antenna on here or any additional antennas for video streaming. So that's essentially it for the quadcopter. Now let's take a closer look at its transmitter. Now taking a closer look at the transmitter, this is a good substantial transmitter, has a good grip and good feel to it. A bit on the big side, not too large, but definitely not a small transmitter. And this transmitter does take a whopping 6 AA batteries. 6 AA batteries here. I've mixed them up a little bit, but it takes a lot of AA batteries, but that's a good thing because that means the transmission power on this transmitter is a lot more powerful than a lot of the toy grade transmitters out there, or Syma X5C variant transmitters. So that may be responsible for its long range. This definitely has a very good long range to it. I'd say somewhere between 80 to 120 meters. So very good range, and I'm sure the large number of batteries in this transmitter is partially or fully responsible for that. So now, taking a closer look at the transmitter, we have our typical controls here, our left throttle stick and our right rudder stick. And we have our photo button right here, video button right here, flip button right here. So you push that and move the throttle in the direction you want the drone to flip, and it'll flip in that direction. Your rates of speed. Now on this drone, there are 4 rates of speed. Denoted by quick beeps, so 1 to 4 beeps, and of course the tilt adjusts based on the rate. So this definitely has a good rate of speed, you know, with a good tilt ratio, and so very good with wind with its 4th rate. These joysticks do not act as buttons, so they're just joysticks. There are no buttons here at the top, as you can see. All the other buttons here are these here are mainly for trims. This is your on-off switch, and right here are the special function buttons. This one right here turns on and off the motors. So if you want to start the drone in idle mode, you just press this and it'll start the motors. If you press this one here, it will do an auto takeoff. If you keep it pressed while it's in flight, it will do an auto land. If you keep the engine or motor button pressed while it's in flight, it will do an emergency stop and shut off all the rotors. And then last but not least, these buttons here are for headless mode and 1 key return. So this would be your 1 key return, and this would be your headless mode. So that's essentially it for the controls. A very good, comfortable transmitter. So now let's take a look at setting this quadcopter up for a first flight. So now setting up the Quadrone Maximus for its first flight. Once its fully charged battery has been plugged in and the 6 AA batteries have been inserted into the transmitter, the first step is to turn on the on-off switch on the drone, which is right here at the bottom. So you would turn that on till you see the lights flash like that. Next, you would turn on the transmitter by turning on its on-off switch like that. And you'd wait a few seconds until the lights go solid and you hear 2 or 3 beeps. There is no binding process with this quadcopter. The transmitter is bound to the quadcopter out of the box or out of the factory. So once it's been bound like that, you're just about ready to take off. The last recommended step is to calibrate the gyros while this is on the ground and it's flat and not moving. Many times the drone will automatically calibrate the gyros while it's binding. So usually when it's binding, you might see some flickering, and that means it's automatically calibrating the gyros, but I still recommend you manually do it once before each flight. So, and to do that, all you have to do is push both sticks down into the center, like so, down into the center, until you see the lights flicker, and then when they go solid, that means the gyros have been calibrated. So that's essentially it for the quadcopter. It's now been calibrated and bound and is fully charged. It is a smooth flyer, pretty fast and nimble, and has a good range and has a good clean camera. Unfortunately, it doesn't have Wi-Fi FPV, but it is a nice little camera bird nonetheless. So let's take her up for a flight and see how she performs.
house.